Hello, this is Miss Gromick. I'm going to be discussing the Jewelry 2 Advanced Polymer Clay Slab Design Project. What you guys will do first is complete a sketch of the design you want to do. You are creating a square, so therefore it needs to be 2.5 by 2.5. My design here is I wanted to make a slab that has donuts on it, so I'm going to show you guys how you would complete this project. The first thing I'm going to do is make my slab that I'm going to add things to. I am going to be using my pasta roller for my polymer clay, and so you're going to need two pieces. You're going to need the handle, the crank, and you're going to need the roller itself. And I'm going to take the roller and I'm going to pull this side out, and I'm going to set it to its biggest opening size. So I'm going to set it to, I don't know if you guys can tell in the video, but it's, the biggest size is a 1. So you can just visually look at it. You can watch the inside and say, okay, if I move them closer together, that's thinner, farther apart, that's thicker. My background color is going to be this color. And usually I say to you guys to use about your pointer finger width from your knuckle up is enough clay. So I'm just gonna roll this a little thinner. And then I'm gonna kind of smush it down like a pancake. So I'm preparing it already to become a longer rectangle. So I want a rectangle, squish it down a little. And then I'm gonna put it in the top of my machine here, and I'm gonna use my crank to feed it through. And now I have a flat piece. And if I need to go through again, I will. I'm gonna get a ruler to see what size I have. So I said 2.5, it's 2.5 wide, but it's not 2.5 tall. So I'm gonna make mine a little thinner, and I'm gonna roll it through again to make it a little bit wider. So I'm using a small amount of clay. Mine's 2 by 2.5. You can use a little bit more, but you don't want it any bigger than 2.5. Just because you just don't need that much clay. I'm gonna go down one more small size. The idea is you don't want it to be as thin as a piece of paper. So it's gonna be kind of up to you, but you don't want to be thin as a piece of paper. So I'm a little over 2.5 there, and a little over 2.5 there. Now that's pretty thin. I would be worried about that snapping or cracking or not holding its shape. So in the end, I'm just gonna go get more polymer clay. So I got a little bit more clay. It's not the same color. I don't have more of this color in the back. So this is a good opportunity for me to show you guys that if you want to make your own color, you can just take 2 colors and mix them together. You just have to keep smushing it until it's fully mixed into one single color. So when I was changing the numbers, I changed it down to an 8, which is too thin. So when you're making yours, don't go past a 3. Anything thinner than a 3 is too thin. Let me finish mixing this guy up. Okay, so I'm gonna form this back into a log. And I'm gonna squish it down again. Now I should have more clay this time. Roll it through. And that should be 2.5. I should be able to get 2.5 by 2.5 out of that. So line it up. I'm going to use my pin tool to mark where 2.5 is. So right there, right there. And I'm gonna go as straight across as I can with my slicer. You guys should know the slicer by now. So that I'm taking it down to the size I need it to be. So 2.5. And then I'm going to measure 2.5. And use my slicer again. All right. So I have 2.5 by 2.5. Now the reason I want to make it that size is so that I have enough space to work. You want to try to stick to working on tin foil so that your clay doesn't stick to the table. So I'm going to put my piece back on the tin foil. And now I'm going to start to decorate it. So things that I wanted in my design, I have donuts. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually make a long, I'm going to make a long snake, and I'm going to roll it up and kind of pinch it to be donut shaped. And then I'm going to push that down and use my finger to just kind of blend it in. So I'm just pushing it so that it stays stuck. You guys should remember from last year, I can take my pin tool and use my pin tool to help me if I need to. You guys should know from last year that this clay sticks to itself. So there's a donut. I'm going to do chocolate icing on this one. So I'm gonna, in order to cut out a piece that I wanted to shape differently, I can use my pin tool, but I can also give you guys you can use an X-Acto knife to cut out things. So if I want mine to be kind of gooey, wiggly, look like frosting, I could flatten out the piece of brown and then I could cut it out, shape it how I want it to look. And I'm going to cut the top off too. Put my hole back in my donut using my pin tool. And then I could take little bits of color to make sprinkles for the background if I want to. So you can cut shapes out or you can just form them with your hands. It's up to you guys. So you're very much forming, placing, and doing all of the pieces yourselves. Now, I had said in our, in your prompt, part of this project, you have to have a texture in the background. So before I put these pieces down, I should have made a texture. I could add texture on top of a piece. So say I wanted to have texture on the actual donut itself, I could push texture in with my pin tool. Or I'm going to go get some texture mats. So I grabbed some texture mats. These are in the back, on the back table. Each one has different marks on it. So I could push gently a texture mat into the clay and it would create a texture for me. Let me pick that up so you can see that closer up. Or if I want to make a man-made texture, I could use different tools and I could make texture with the different tools. There's different forming tools. I could just make some polka dots. So there's all different ways to add a texture. Sorry, I keep bumping the camera. There's all different ways to add texture to your pieces. So this is part one, is creating just your slab. You have to fill this entire square. And then when you are done, you will take a picture, and that is part of your project grade, is to have done an entire square of design. That is all. I will see you in the next part.